A lovely Saturday morning it is. Much obliged to have you join us on the program Politics Today on independent television and radio. That means in the next 55 minutes it will be a time for us to talk politics in a very robust manner. In the last couple of days, maybe about 2 weeks, all eyes have been on the Judiciary, specifically on the Supreme Court, in terms of the fate of state executives. The Supreme Court on Friday affirmed the election of 6 more governors. The governors are Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State, Uba Sani of Kaduna State, Inuwa Yahya of Gombe State, Nasser Idris of Kebbi State, Dakbo Abiodun of Ogun State, and Sheriff Oborowori of Delta State. The Apex Court had last Friday delivered judgment on Plateau, Lagos, Abia, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Benue, Zamfara, Ebonyi, and Kano governorship appeals. This sums up the resolved election appeals to 15. In all, the decided cases so far, no governor has been sacked from office. Attention were really on 2 of such judgment, talking about the Kano State situation as well as that of Plateau State. And we've also seen some reactions trailing the outcomes of the Supreme Court decision on Nasarawa State. Yesterday, we saw videos and pictures of people protesting, even women, aged women, protesting. A major rout in that state was actually cordoned off as a result of the protest. We're reading the lead judgment in the Nasarawa appeal. Justice Kudirat Kekereku held that the appeal by David Umbugadu of the PDP lacked merit. She, however, affirmed the election of the governor, Abdullahi Sule. She said the issues in this appeal are resolved against the appellant. The appeal lacks merit and it is hereby dismissed. And we can just go on and look at other judgments that were decided by the Supreme Court, other decisions made by the Supreme Court yesterday and a week earlier. And that brings us to about 15 altogether. It means, like most analysts have advocated in recent times, the judiciary, it's gradually, systematically taking over the responsibilities of the electorate. Because when an election is concluded, INEC has done its own part, the results are announced, but it's usually not uhuru yet for the winners, because they must wait for what will come forth from the law courts. But some say it's not the problems of the judiciary. It is the clear-cut irresponsibility on the part of the political parties and then on the part of some of the aspirants or candidates, as the case may be. All of these is the crux of our conversation today on Politics Today on independent television and radio. Remember, as always, our studio line will be open, so you can call. You can also follow us on all our social media platforms so you can be part of the program. But let's meet our panelists. From my extreme left, let me welcome Barrister St. Michael Gwaugi, a human rights lawyer, public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure being here this morning.
We also have with us the former chairman, the Lion Bar, as they call it, the Benin branch of the Nigerian Bar Association, Barrister Pius Oiwo. Thank you for joining us.
Indeed, it's my pleasure to be here.
We also have with us here another civil activist who's also a clergyman, the executive director, People's Defenders Advocate, Bishop Osadolo Ochei. Bishop, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. God bless you, listeners and viewers at home.
Okay, let's begin with Barrister Oiwo to set the template for this conversation. 15 decisions taken so far by the Supreme Court to decide the fate of state executives. This has become a pattern since democracy, came into existence in a sense from 1999 till date, where election is held. We've got to wait for the courts to give a final decision on even as elementary as the primaries is concerned, the election, and then of course the outcome of the election. Give us your perspectives on the judgment given so far by the Supreme Court.
Well, thank you very much for of course, directing this first discussion to me for my own contribution. Well, as a matter of fact, we must appreciate the provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which, first and foremost, requires that the decisions or election disputes for governorship terminates at the Supreme Court. And same true with the presidential election, which commences from the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. Then for the governorship, for the legislative houses, that is the House of Assembly and then the National Assembly, it terminates at the Court of Appeal as the final court. And recently, of course, we've seen a lot of judgments delivered by the Supreme Court. It has been a busy season for the Supreme Court. We've seen and heard the lead judgments of Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, and then that of Ajim, and then that of course, of other justices of the Supreme Court. Okoro also, Ian Okoro, who has also been in the light. Particularly, one would observe that the courts, like you indicated in your opening statement this morning, have consistently affirmed most of the decisions of the, in terms of declaration of results by INEC. And then you will agree with me that in election petitions disputes, which of course is sui generis, when we say sui generis in legal maxim, it means it's peculiar, special in nature. The petitioner has a burden of proof, and then it is very, very it's an onerous task for a petitioner to prove an election dispute for the purposes of having an election dispute decided otherwise. A matter decided otherwise. That is setting aside a declaration. Now, particular decisions that have created panic and tension within the political space within the last 2 weeks has been that of Kanu, that of Plateau, and then Nasarawa State of yesterday. And then I kind of recall with nostalgia when about a few weeks ago, some persons were on the panel here and were quick at condemning the decision, commending the decision of the Court of Appeal at the Kanu Election Petitions Appeal Tribunal. And I tried to call in, but I think time did not.
So you have the time now.
So
yes,
my position has always been that as a lawyer, when you come to discuss legal issues, do not decide or argue on the point of view of what people say and what the court below has concluded. Of course, that is why there is an appellate court. Also, take time to look at the brief of argument as presented by the counsel representing the other side.
Now you have looked at it.
I've looked at it.
What are your thoughts?
And in this particular case, for Kanu, for instance, the sitting governor of Kanu State, Governor Abba Yusuf, had his membership card as a member of NMPP, presented, tendered at the tribunal. And besides, the second issue which the court looked at in setting aside, in declaring otherwise, and then affirming in favor of the APC, was that, look, that he did not secure the majority of lawful vote cast in the election. They deducted over 157,000 or thereabouts. And we looked at it. You can distinguish this decision from the Imo case, Imo State election, which was done during the time of the first term of Governor Hope, who was Odinma. In this particular decision in Kano State, for instance, first and foremost, the governor had, apart from tendering his membership card, it is only a member of his political party that can otherwise also say that this man is not a member of my party. So I see it as somebody trying to be, busybody. For somebody, for somebody from another political party to say, oh, look, this person is not a member of this political party. And that in itself, the trial tribunal decided, sacked the man. The appeal tribunal, which is the Court of Appeal, affirmed the decision of the, and then that created tension in Kano State. But of course, we looked at it differently and said, look, we know that the Supreme Court, manned by 5 justices who are sitting as the apex court will do otherwise. We look at it critically and affirm their previous decisions in election petition disputes. Okay. And the court has always maintained that nomination and sponsorship of a candidate is the exclusive preserve of a political party.
So I'm wondering, this is well established in several cases.
Plethora of cases.
So how come it's always a part of what lawyers bring forth in favor of their candidate or their sponsor or their principal? How come they cannot advise these people properly so that they can make the right decision and then don't belabor the court, stress the court on
maybe perhaps. Yes. That is why recently you see that the courts, particularly the Supreme Court, have started the practice of slamming costs, crushing costs against lawyers when they do things like this. Again, some of them you never can tell may have some alliance or whatever with the courts in arriving at such a decision. It's very sad that in spite of the plethora of decisions of the court, the apex court, and painfully some of the justices of the Court of Appeal are those that are elevated to the Supreme Court. There are decisions, settled decisions. That also affected the Plateau decision. But as God will have it, we had, if, for instance, like in Plateau State, the chairman of the governorship election petition tribunal, who, by the grace of God, is a freeborn of this state, a judge of the Edo State High Court, who has a pedigree for being upright like our brother judges of the State High Court of the Edo State, decided in favor of the fact that, look, this petition by the APC lacks merit because we have no business whatsoever for us to interfere or meddle into the affairs of
internal political matters.
Besides, what pained me most in that Plateau State decision is the fact that even the APC presented, by way they tendered the evidence of another Congress that was as ordered by the High Court Plateau State, but said that it was not properly done. They complied with the orders of that court. A fresh Congress was done, which led to another primaries. And yet, even if they had not done such a thing, the court have no business to grant them.
Let me push such matter. But as I said, Michael, give us your perspective on some of these judgments. I mean, 15 is a huge number. Well, so far so good. None of the governors has been sacked, as it were. But what are the contents of this judgment or the aspect of this judgment that you think is impacting negatively on the judiciary or on our democracy, as it were?
Well, the judgments that impacted negatively on our electoral jurisprudence, as it were the ones emanating, or the ones that emanated, from the appellate court, that's the Court of Appeal. Because some of these judgments had the implication of, creating, discordance, creating discordance, so to say, leading to some form of, uncertainty in our laws. Because these are issues that had hitherto been settled in a plethora of cases by the apex courts in the land. And when the Supreme Court decide a matter, it is said to be res judicata. It is settled. These are matter that, and these appellate court have a duty, to take a cue from what the Supreme Court had decided. We call it judicial precedent. Or stare decisis. Follow it the way it was hitherto decided.
So why is it difficult for this to be followed? Why is it difficult for these precedents to be followed?
For one reason or the other, I wouldn't know. However, there is a loophole. The loophole they tend to explore also exists in our legal jurisprudence. There's the element of distinguishing. The court will always tell you that no two cases are the same. Are you getting it now? So when a lawyer, come up with a brief and tend to, distinguish, one case from another case, perhaps relying on, frivolities as ground or basis, for such distinguishing. And you are able, to convince the judge, they will listen to you. Perhaps that is what is, has taken place. I don't want to impugn on, the integrity of the court.
Okay.
Perhaps that is what has happened. But I am happy, extremely happy, that, the Supreme Court has risen, to the occasion. Once again, the Supreme Court has done the needful. The Supreme Court has, saved, the polity of this nation from calamity,
Okay.
from non-uniformity,
Okay.
and from uncertainty.
Okay.
Because the implication of the judgment emanating, from the Court of Appeal, in the past few weeks or past months, is that, it had, set the polity on fire, such that, our state, was further pushed, to the precarious, of its was pushed to the edge of its precarious precipice,
Okay.
threatening to cascade into an ocean of emasculation.
Okay.
As God will have it, the Supreme Court had intervened and saved us, from this unnecessary calamity.
Bishop Osadoloche, can you build on this foundation established? I mean, from your experience and knowledge about some of these developments that has been building up in our political process, the judiciary is very, very crucial and important to the survival of democracy. But what we have is the gradual takeover of the role of the electorate in an electoral process. Can you blame the judiciary? These cases are instituted by those who feel aggrieved, some on frivolous grounds. But I'm glad that the judiciary is also, like Barrister Ewo said, slamming those bringing such frivolities to the court. Yes, let's build up on that.
Thank you very much. You see, we thank God that the Supreme Court have risen to their task as constitutionally provided. They are not taking over the electoral process because it's a constitutional matter. The Constitution gave the court the power to look into any petition brought before them, whether you call it real or frivolous. Their duty is to look at it and decide on its merit.
Okay.
But the problem we have is the lawyers and the political parties. The lawyers, in the sense that they know this case is bad, instead of advising their client that this matter is bad, there is no need to go
Or it's
ahead.
dead on arrival.
Dead on arrival. They will tell him we have a technical way to prove this your case and we will succeed.
Don't look at it, they are not looking at you.
No, don't worry, they are my friends. They are my friends. They have a technical way to prove that this thing you are right. And the court too, to some extent, some compromise. Some of the judges compromise in this process by not looking, because whatever judgment the Supreme Court give becomes an authority that every matter you want to refer to, as you quote the Constitution and other extant law, you also make reference to it as an authority.
Okay.
Because no judge is expected to go beside the judgment of the Supreme Court to give a judgment, whether at the magistrate, whether at the High Court, or at the Appeal Court. So, but for the fact that when lawyers present a case, they look for technicalities. And the worst scenario is the political party leaders that throw up a candidate that is not popular. They throw up candidates that they believe will become a stooge to serve my purpose. Like what is happening now in all the political parties. I was watching Danobi in a conference this morning on my YouTube where he was addressing the legacy group that they brought Governor Baseki to PDP. And as soon as he won, he said he shut the door against all the PDP leaders. He said he became a governor. He was the one that brought the deputy. He was the one that brought the chief of staff. He was the one that brought the deputy chief of staff. He was the one that brought the secretary to government. He was the one that brought all the commissioners. Then the party is no longer relevant. That this one they are no longer going to make the same mistake.
Okay.
I'm coming.
No, just we'll post that there and look at it on another day so that you don't change the course of the discussion. But let me just highlight something here.
Yes.
The Apex Court, talking about the Supreme Court, also dismissed the appeal by the All Progressives Congress and its candidate, Ovie Omo Agege, and the Labour Party and its candidate, Ken Pella, as well as the appeal by Kenneth Gbagi of the Social Democratic Party against the Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborowori. In the Omo Agege's appeal, the 5-member panel led by Justice John Okoro said the appeal lacked merit and the appellant was unable to discharge the burden of proof placed on him. Okoro held that subtracting the total number of votes mentioned in the result sheets complained about by Omo Agege wouldn't be sufficient to remove the governor from office. Gbagi and Pella's appeals were dismissed also for lack of merit. The Court of Appeal in Lagos had affirmed the election of Sheriff Oborowori as the governor of that state, dismissing the appeals by the governorship candidates and their parties. In some of the election cases, we have seen some of the losers congratulating the winners. I think that happened in Ogun State, where Dakwa Abiodun was confirmed by the Supreme Court. But apart from that, we haven't seen much of such, congratulations coming forth. And then we've also seen almost all the in some of the states, you just have maybe one person going all the way to the Supreme Court. But in Delta State, all the 3 major candidates ensured they took the case to the Supreme Court before they got satisfied. Well, like they say, if you ain't satisfied with the Supreme Court, probably you have to take your case to God. To heaven. Bishop, let's focus on this here quickly. Yeah.
Thank you. Like I was trying to build up. Now that some of the members are dissatisfied, they have spoken to some to withdraw from the race. A committee headed by Chief Tommy Kimi have spoken to some to withdraw. And among the PDP aspirants, many of them refuse to withdraw.
Bishop, you are still taking us to where I am not going. Just hold on, Bishop. I'll come back to you later. But I will quickly anchor the point.
Yes, You see, we find ourselves in a political quandary in this country. If you look at the various decisions of the Supreme Court, which are like litmus tests to and of binding judicial precedents to other courts below. There has been this prevalence of cases that ought to have been decided at the pre-election stage. Now, you realize that there are cases, particularly those that have to do with qualification and some other things, that this person is not a member of a political party, which ought to have been decided at the pre-election stage. And the Constitution is very clear, particularly Section 285 of the Constitution, which circumscribes the jurisdiction of the Election Petitions Tribunal. And cases within that area go straight to through the ladder to the Court of Appeal, and if it is for the governorship or presidential election, of course, to the Supreme Court. Now, when there has been an infraction within a political party due to party indiscipline or party disrespect for norms and their respect for its constitution, one will expect that a member aggrieved within that political party should approach the Federal High Court or the court so kind of vested with jurisdiction to determine such pre-election cases. We've seen a lot of them, like the one even in Plateau State, I think which ordered another Congress to be done, for instance. That ordinarily was within the same political party. But unfortunately, the other party, which is the APC, wanted to take advantage of it at the tribunal, which was not necessarily going to fly. And that is why, of course, I started not too long ago by commending His Lordship, Honorable Justice Rita Irene Efije of the Edo State High Court, who was the chairman of the Plateau State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal. And she maintained the position of the Supreme Court. But unfortunately, the Court of Appeal, presided over by Honorable Justice Oluwayemisi Williams.
I thought otherwise. Maybe it's from a different perspective,
And then it was unfortunate. It has affected the fate of over 21 lawmakers, House of Assembly, reps, and then senators. Now, when the court has even gone further to say, look, for you to complain about the infraction within a political, while fielding a candidate or sponsoring or kind of projecting a candidate, nominating a candidate, you have to even be a candidate yourself.
Not just being a member.
Not just being a member. So it is not, you just go and bring somebody, maybe you go and bring St. Michael Gwaoji from a member of APC to come and challenge the nomination of Bishop Oche as a flag bearer for a political for APC, for instance. You must have been a candidate that contested the same office with him. So I think these are some of the things we should look at.
Let me come to Barrister St. Michael. Bishop said something a while ago about the fact that these frivolities that those of us not in the legal profession see every now and then in these matters, which in many cases, even some of the honorable justices have alluded to in their judgment, is the fault of the political parties. Where you have internal democracy prevailing, some of these things will not be, it will not be as rampant as we're seeing now. That's on the one plank. And then you also have members of the bar at very senior level who also believe that they have contact and connection within the judiciary circle, and then they can rely on technicalities to be able to drive a particular case to logical conclusion in favor of their client. That's why we have these things be rampant. Do you subscribe to this?
Well, your suspicion is valid.
So do you subscribe to it?
Your suspicion is valid. It's a combination of all of these factors. In addition to the fact that we also have overzealous politicians who are desperate to get anything at all cost. They will spend the last drop of their blood. They will spend their last kobo, to secure, any juicy office for themselves. And that is because, public offices in Nigeria are very juicy. When you find yourself fortunate to occupy any political office in Nigeria, you are fortunate in all sense of the word, because you will become rich overnight. You have the unfettered access, to the political terrain of the nation. And that is why, economic and political prebendalism has festered unabated in our political climate. Let me quickly address one of the issues you raised, that why is it that since judgment has been delivered, some of the losers have congratulated the winners, while others have refused, to congratulate those who won. The reason is this, it's simple, that our political milieu is characterized and prevalent with, a lot of politicians who in their mind are still bambinos. They are not yet matured. They are giant babies. They forget that when you look at, the sum total of our laws, you read it side by side. That is the Electoral Act and the Constitution. You will come to the inescapable conclusion that election is a process. It's not an event. It starts with, nomination, purchase of form, nomination, campaign, then the election itself, then the declaration. That you have been declared does not mean that the process has ended. The court will take its turn. The court will look at, what has been done and make pronouncements, whether it was properly done or not. As a matured individual, once, the court has taken its turn, either from the lowest court down to the apex court, once judgment is pronounced, as an individual, you owe it as a duty to the state and to the nation to congratulate the winner. Whether in your mind you think,
or not.
whether you are satisfied or not. That is how it is done in civilized clime. I remember, a few years ago in America, where the election of, I think, George Bush Jr. was adjudged, to have been rigged, I think in Florida. To, save the nation from unnecessary calamity and to preserve the sacrosanctity of the image of the state, the Supreme Court had to intervene. What did the Agod do? The man who was adjudged to be the loser. He didn't pull down the roof. He didn't bring down the roof. He didn't say that he will not congratulate the winner. He immediately congratulated George Bush Jr. Even though what the Supreme Court had done did not go down well with the Democrats as at that time. What do we find in Nigeria? The presidential election, to be precise, a matter that started with the Court of Appeal and terminated at the Supreme Court. Are you aware that up till now, some major candidates are yet to congratulate, the winner of that, election? They have refused to congratulate the winner. These are the kind of people I call political bombinos.
Okay.
They are not yet matured,
All right.
To participate, in politics or in democracy in the real sense of the
Bishop
word.
Sir, can you take this further in terms of the roles of the political parties, aspirants, and the candidates in creating this unnecessary challenge for the judiciary to deal with every time we have an election cycle? Yeah.
That is why I was trying to build up what it is going.
Yes.
He's still trying to build.
Where you stop. First, each political party have a constitution,
Yes.
which they should respect. But in a situation where one man is the one that is not the law and the constitution, bring room for all this anarchy. Because anyone that is not satisfied will approach the court. Like I was trying to build the template of what is happening. By the time they go to their primary and somebody is imposed on them, the remaining persons that refuse to step down must go to court. Like what is happening in APC, where some kind of people set up a committee outside the National Central Working Committee, who gave guideline that all aspirants who are interested in contesting should obtain nomination form and interest form and pay the fees, all aspirants. And they were all invited to find out if there is anybody who will agree to step down for one another. But somebody took it upon himself to set up a kangaroo, and they said they are screened, and they came up with number of people that will contest. That again is working against the constitution of the party and working against the national working, central working committee of the party.
Okay.
Now, by the time you not dislist those ones from contesting, they will still go to court. If they go to court, that's where the judiciary now have a role to play.
Okay.
But if they were all allowed, or within themselves, they work within themselves to say, Barrister Owo, please step down for me, let us work together. Barrister Wagi, step down for me, let's work together, and they agree. Nobody will go to court. But if Sonny Duke is now forcing them, whether they like it or not, to step down for me, Oga, they must approach the court. No man is bigger than the law.
Okay.
So if no man is bigger than the law, they should always allow the law, whether the party law, which they call their constitution, or the Nigerian constitution, or the electoral act, to work according to law. Not you sitting down and deciding who should go or who should not go, because you are afraid of some certain persons.
Okay. All right.
Are you referring to APC or
it leads us
He
to
said
a very important part of this conversation, which has to do with in the next few months we'll have the Edo State governorship election. And as is always the case, the political parties are working really hard in that direction. Aspirants are emerging every now and then to indicate their interest to participate in the election. What, in our opinion, are the lessons learned from some of these decisions taken by the Supreme Court on electoral matters, whether the pre-electoral matters, as the case may be, or the post-electoral matters, as the case may be? Using Edo State as a case, what lessons are there for political parties? Bishop has already keyed us in there. I mean, there's so much of passion in that direction. So I wanted to be, this is why I actually wanted this subject to come up in the course of the conversation. But Bishop just kept us putting us down the road.
He practically dragged us there.
Let the cat out of
All right, you have succeeded. So, yes.
Thank you so much. I think, like you said, Bishop has set the ball rolling. Even if we will say that he let the cat out of the bag. I think he saw the question.
He saw the line of it.
Yes. My advice to political parties at a time like this, judging from the plethora of decisions that have been delivered over time, particularly by the Apex Court, is to respect and allow internal democracy within the party. Majority of cases that were presented before the tribunal happen to be pre-election cases, which ordinarily would have been resolved shortly, within 14 days after the primaries or thereabout. But we now saw them rearing their ugly heads in the main election. And you see, we find ourselves in a situation where party leaders and those actors, stakeholders, are not playing the game according to the rules of the game. And we see it also too that by the necessary guidelines and the Electoral Act, INEC plays a major role in the nomination and sponsorship of political parties. At least they are saying they are supposed to be present as witnesses and then to supervise what is to be done. In some states, but for instance in Edo, you recall that they had an internal, particularly the People's Democratic Party had an internal crisis which led as far as the Supreme Court, to the Supreme Court, between the legacy group and then the other group. So these are some of the things that I think we should begin to check and then try to avoid as much as possible. A question was asked not too long ago. I think we did not particularly take time to consider, particularly the crisis that we see in, the Nasarawa State after the declaration of the result by the Supreme Court and by the delivery of the judgment by the Supreme Court yesterday. You realize that those who are anchoring or who are protesting, including women who went naked even to protest, and I learned so many persons have been remanded too, were persons of the People's Democratic Party. Of course, you realize too that at the tribunal, unlike the other cases that were decided. At the tribunal, the trial tribunal in Nasarawa State ruled in favor of the People's Democratic Party. And that was because, of course, they were able to establish their case at that level. Okay. But when the matter proceeded on appeal to the Court of Appeal, Court of Appeal from the tribunal.
Okay, from tribunal to Court of Appeal. Okay.
The Court of Appeal said, look, it was wrong for the trial tribunal to rely on the the evidence, the witness statement of 8 witnesses that were never front-loaded at the time the petition was filed.
Yes.
That was the reason that was given.
Yes.
And then at the Supreme Court affirmed the decision of the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
Now, that has created tension because at one ladder, there was decision in favor of one political party, and then it was in favor of another political party, so there was tension. Just as we saw in Kano State also. But though in Kano State, it was a concurrent judgment of the trial tribunal and then that of the Court of Appeal. And of course, everybody saw the governor exiting government house as, oh, he must leave, because the Supreme Court will not interfere with the decision of the two lower courts, except such decisions are perverse or clearly unjust. And that is why, of course, like in the Kano decision, like we have argued, we have of course, demonstrated earlier, the Supreme Court said, look, you have no business, because this man has shown that he's a member of a political party. Besides, for the issue of votes, that for which you cancelled 157 or so votes, 1,000 votes, the man, INEC itself acknowledged that this result, this is what they call it now, the booklet, the result sheet, and then the ballot papers, emanated from them, and that the serial numbers are the same. It was just the inadvertence of the collating officer or the polling unit officers to sign and to stamp. And then on the basis of that, the Supreme Court said this. So by and large, the point I'm making is that political parties must learn from the misadventure of what we have seen in this 2023 election that has been conducted, so that they can avoid what has happened before, and then we can chart a new way forward. And then we should also, by so doing, reduce as much as possible the number of litigations. The litigations, to me, are also a distraction from what is to be done. Like Bishop said, and I agree with him to a large extent, that look, if the political parties, the leaders of the parties do what is right and just, of course, and they pacify the parties, and you don't impose candidates, of course, there will be no need for all this unnecessary litigation.
Barrister Ogagi, lessons for Edo State, arising from these litany of judgments from the Supreme Court.
The ex-Lion chairman has already covered the feed, except that I just need to, say one or two by way of an addendum. Political parties and politicians should endeavor to play by the rules at all time. The reason for this unnecessary, tension, created in our polity is as a result of the desperation on the part of politicians who want to, secure public office at all cost. Most of them, like I said before, would, spend their last kobo in trying to, bend the rules or bend the process in their favor. Right now, we have two major, parties already, clapping and dancing. The process has begun for them. The PDP, the APC.
And the Labour Party.
And Labour Party is also there. At the moment, I have been monitoring, what is happening at the level of, APC, where some people are already crying foul. I think that was what Bishop O'Shea was trying to allude to. When the chairman said he has let the cat out of the bag. It was not the cat he let out of the bag, actually.
It was elephant.
It was elephant. only that he was just trying to beg the issue. So people already cry foul. That,
what is the basis of that cry, if I may ask you?
The basis of the cry.
No, I'm asking you.
He refers it. Yes. That way of scratching the surface. The truth of the matter is that, you know, a single individual, you know, is trying to micromanage, you know, the process, you know, in such a way that, you know, the person who emerged will be a reflection of his likeness and oneness. You know, we are created in the image of God.
Not in the image of that one. So you don't bring us to that one.
So you have to micromanage the process.
Yes.
That will throw up a candidate that will be, you know, a reflection of his image and likeness. I think that is
all right. Let's make progress and allow our listeners and viewers to be part of the conversation on the program Politics Today on independent television and radio. But just to help you make sense of some of the judgments and decisions taken by the Supreme Court yesterday, and of course a few days before, which brought the total number of such decisions to 15. The election of the Ogun State Governor, Dakpo Abiodun, was also affirmed. The appellants, Ladi Adebutu and the People's Democratic Party, prayed to the Apex Court to compel the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct fresh elections in the 99 polling units where elections were allegedly cancelled. The Appeal Court's Lagos Division had, in a split decision on November 24, 2023, affirmed the re-election of Dakpo Abiodun as the duly elected governor of Ogun State. And I think this particular case is a bit different because this seems to be maybe the only case where there was a request for the conduction of a fresh election in some units, all right? Majority judgment delivered by Justice Joseph Ike dismissed the appeal filed by the PDP and its governorship candidate, Oladipo Adebutu. Reacting to the lead judgment, Justice Tijani Abubakar dismissed the appeal. Equally, the Supreme Court dismissed the appeal of the PDP and its candidate, Muhammad Issa, declaring Uba Sani as the duly elected governor of Kaduna State. For Uba Sani, there's been a lot of appreciation for his efforts to douse the religious tension in that state by trying to carry everybody along. We hope he can sustain that momentum and correct the wrongs of Madam Nasser El-Rufai, who was the immediate governor in that state. We know that all of his activities led to his not being a minister today, so his sins caught up with him. So for those who have the opportunity to be in position today, do the best that you can to ensure that the people are happy. Yeah, the people are happy. The re-election of Gombe State Governor Inuwa Yahaya was also upheld by the Supreme Court yesterday. Okay, that's too much on that, but let's get our studio line open, which is already open, so you can also call and be part of the discussion. Tell us your name, where you're calling from. Do not cast aspersion on anyone, and go straight to the point. Remember, you are entitled to your opinion. The views expressed or canvassed here, either from our panelists or from you, they are not the views of the station. But let's get started with our first caller on the program. Hello, good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Mr. Osi. I'm calling from Benin.
Okay, Mr. Osi, go ahead, please.
Yes. My name is Mr. Osi. I'm calling from Benin.
Okay, Mr. Osi, please go ahead. Good morning, sir. Go ahead and go ahead with your contribution.
I'm just the way of the objection.
Okay.
Attentively to the wonderful panel we have here. So I'm already on.
Yes, go on. You're on. You're live on the program, Mr. Ozi. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is that I've listened to the discourse and they have discussed so well.
Okay.
Don't you think it will be possible? Don't you think it's possible that political parties should be made to go to Supreme Court and collate all these judgments they have made, so that from time to time politicians will be made to understand and be part of those decisions the Supreme Court has taken, so that it will help strengthen their internal democracy. It's like sometimes they just keep all these judgments aside until the thing is now catch up with them when the time comes. So that's my suggestion.
All right.
It's not as if they don't know, but they'll just slip over it and think they will always use money or their leaders to go to look at what is happening and because they refuse to learn. It will continue to be there for them. That's just my contribution.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate these views and perspectives shared. This is very valid. The judgments have been made by the Supreme Court. Can't political parties collate all of these judgments, distill them into a document that they can use as a guide in subsequent decisions?
Do we have proper political parties?
No. We have political parties.
We don't.
The problem we have
Yes.
as a nation is that we do not want to do the right thing. We know what the right things are. Every political party has the office of the legal advisor. And I know that. PDP has it at the state level. They have it at the national. APC has it at the state level and at the national level. The Labour Party and other political parties, they have it. They are members of the executive. They can sit down and say, look, we advise along this line. But again, how many politicians tell themselves the truth? The moment they sit down together, maybe some things pass hand, they forget about what they become blindfolded. And at times, they give an impression to the leadership of the party that, look, we know how to bulldoze our way to ensure that we get judgment.
Okay.
And that is now, that narrative is now a kind of no longer what it is. And we thank God now that the Supreme Court has always demonstrated courage. And then whoever thinks that he can do anything and they can undermine the settled decisions of the court.
Yes.
In fact, within the last about a year or thereabout, lawyers who go to court and file frivolous applications get crushing costs against them to be paid by them themselves, not their clients.
Not their clients.
Not.
Interesting.
They award as much as 50 million naira.
Let me get your take on this here.
The reason why I said we don't have
Proper political parties.
proper political parties.
But we have political parties.
We have political
but
parties.
They are not proper. So we have improper political parties.
When these political parties are not properly constituted in tandem with the ideal.
Okay.
What is the ideal? Political parties are supposed to be association of persons who are guided by ideology and philosophy with a common purpose and objective. In our climb here, our political parties do not even have ideology. That is what is responsible for this, serial, lingering political jumpology. Somebody can be, a member of APC today. He will insult, PDP, lambaste PDP, and use his tongue to destroy PDP. In the next minute, he's in bed.
It becomes campaign. It will be a campaign.
He will not be campaigning
for another. Yes, in the next cycle of election, we've seen that before.
In the next cycle of election,
Yes,
Political prostitutes.
are you getting it now?
Yes.
That. Okay, you just remove the word political prostitution.
All right, Bishop Shan, let me get to take on this. What our last caller said.
The issue is this. There is no ideology in the whole political setup. In those days, each political party have their manifesto, what they believe in. And people join the party based on that ideology. Okay. I'm joining this party because they believe in this. But today, you can be a member of A party in the morning. In the afternoon, you become a member of B party after insulting B, castigating them, spoiling their name, calling them names. You are now a member, and you start praising them again. You will leave there again and go to C in the evening. Then you now call A and B various unprinted names. Then by daybreak, you return back to A. And that is why nobody believes them anymore.
All right, let's take this call.
Political prostitutes.
Let's take this call. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name? All right, go ahead.
The affirmation of some state governors by the Supreme Court that during their state governorship election is not a big deal to me. My question now is, why is this Nigerian court is one side that will decide who occupies any political position in Nigeria? Well, it doesn't mean that they don't do their thorough job, don't do their job well. They don't speak all these candidates well. That the judiciary is the one now that decide what happens in our election system. That is very, very bad.
Okay.
What is this period? Every election period, our judges and lawyers are out to make big money. And all of their eyes open, all their pockets is just wide open for money because they know this judiciary will come to them. And they will know if they advise them that this what they are going to lose. They want to make money. Why? It's very, very bad. That the court is the one now to tell us who is occupying the position in Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you, caller from Willie. Thank you for the views and thoughts that you shared. Our studio line is still open. Dial the number right now. Let's get your take as much as time will permit us to deal with. 080-7777-0300. That's the studio number. Hello, caller. Good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. And our last caller today. Yes, good morning, caller. Please go ahead.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, my contribution is that these political parties, they are busy collecting money to buy form and other things. They are not busy telling them, asking them about their results. No, they are not talking about the results, which is another problem. They should ask them about their results. That is my point.
Thank you very much. I mean, that's one thing that is very common with our political process and becomes a subject of discourse and litigation as we make progress. But I'm sure we're going to see that. Well, I hope we don't see that in this whole process, as we can focus on some very, very key issues that borders on governance, as it were, insecurity, the economy, the social sector, health sector, educational sector. I mean, just name it. The list is endless. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our time is up on the program Politics Today. I want to say big thanks to you, Barrister St. Michael Ogwagi. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Barrister Pius Oyewo, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Bishop Osadolo Uche, Executive Director, People's Defender Advocate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. God bless you.
Okay, that's our package today on the program, Politics Today on Independent Television and Radio. We hope you had a great time with us. We'll be back here next week, Saturday, God willing, for our fresh installment on the program. But as we make progress in the planning, preparations, participation for Edo 2024 governorship election, the onus is on the political parties, specifically the delegates, to do the right thing and ensure that, number one, we have a very robust structure and strategy for all those who have indicated interest to actually participate. Even if there is a consensus, it should be an objective one, not a subjective one. That way we'll avoid some of these pre-election litigations that usually derails our political process. And then for the delegates, shine your eye, make the best decision, give us a candidate that will be all be proud of, that people want to associate with, that has the capacity, has the knowledge, that has the experience. Those who perhaps have not really lived up to expectations in the past. I mean, you look at, but unfortunately, sometimes money becomes a major decision or a major decider on it, because we pray that doesn't happen this time around. But that's our prayer. That's it on the show. Thank you for your time. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.